Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. We're here to continue the conversation of race, and we're really excited, so let's turn right to our panel. Oftentimes we hear the expression that Black children can only be properly raised by Black parents. And I think that that's a really strong statement. And I just wanted a little of your opinion on that, whether it's in the adoption world or not. Sierra, can you maybe touch on your reaction to that?
So I can see both sides of it. I can see why some people think that only a Black household can raise a Black child, because again, there are some things that Black children are taught or they have to learn, and only a Black parent can show them that way or teach them what's going on. On the other hand, the love, the patience, just the want to take care of a child, all of that is also very important. And other families also have that as well. And I just kind of feel like it's more, you have to be open. You have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to take in all this information and also find a way to interpret it for your child, especially if there is a cultural difference. And that's the more important part to me. As far as, like I said, my son has a white family, and they have asked questions that they probably did not want to ask, but they did. And it's like the fact that you guys are asking questions makes me know that you guys are actually trying to help my son or do things with my son that's going to be important to him later on in life. And he's going to know that, and he's going to be here for him. And that's important to me. Just the fact that he knows if he does have any questions later on, we're here. We're all here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Samai, did you want to say something?
That's a great question, and it just kind of had me, because like my career background is more in drug and alcohol. So working in drug and alcohol facilities and working with individuals who have their inability to cope with an addiction, there's always this common question that's posed, well, how would you know if you're not an addict? How will you know what I'm dealing with if you're not an addict? I don't have to be an addict to understand that certain situations that go on within your life can make you do certain things and make you respond in a certain way, especially if you have a chemical imbalance. Now, with that being said, just as Sierra has said, is the fact of the matter is, basically we're in class and you're raising your hand saying, hey, I have a question. I'm thirsty for knowledge, and I want to know how I can handle myself and my child in these certain situations the way that life is going on right now.
These are tough conversations. I don't think anyone has the answer. I am a white individual, and I will never understand what it feels like to be Black. And I think that we want to just be very open and honest about that. And we want to hear from you guys of ways that our adopting families and our adoptive parents, rather, who have already been placed with children, can be proactive moving forward. I think our agency has already done a great job of starting that conversation. We have great educational classes for families that come into our program that particularly touch on these topics of how to be prepared to raise a child of color in today's world. But I think we need to do more. And that's what we're trying to do today, is to hear from you guys as to how you're raising the children you're parenting already, and just some advice you have for folks who are not Black and need some help. I also wanted to touch on, I think, in today's social climate of what's going on, particularly with the news reports that have come forward, and just the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of our Black birth parents' emotions have been heightened, and they've been questioning whether or not placing their Black child with a white family was the right or wrong decision, and just having this anxiety over, can this family properly raise my child in what's going on today, and just this fear of, is something going to happen to my kid, and just seeing these news reports, and it's very overwhelming for them. So I wanted to kind of put that out there to anybody of, how do you deal with that? Are you feeling that at any point, particularly for our birth parents who have placed their child in white homes? What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have any fears associated with what's happening? Go ahead, Asia.
So I did have this conversation with my sister, and when I initially placed my son for adoption, that didn't really come to mind, like, oh, later he's going to have this issue and anything, except for just, him being Black, period. But now with everything that's been going on, I have so much fear rising in me, like, oh my goodness, when he's older, or even now, like, people are going to look at him a certain way just for the simple fact that he's not only Black, but he's a Black male. And with everything now, I'm looking at his parents being white, and I'm just like, I never feared for a white family before, and I fear so much just because they're taking care of a Black child. And it's a really weird feeling to have, something I never even thought would be possible, just because people are so hell-bent basically on demonizing. Some people are just so hell-bent on demonizing Black people that they're willing to go through people of their own color to get to us, basically. It's really terrifying, and I don't know per se how to approach that, or how to kind of get over that fear, because I think that's going to be around for a long time. And I think even as he's getting older, and that they're learning more about what's going on, that's just something that they're going to all be working through together, and something that they're not going to experience it the exact same way as a Black parent would, but they're still going to have their own hurdles and obstacles to overcome just because they're raising a Black child. And that's, like I said, very terrifying.
Well, and Asia, I think the part that you touched on that's really important is the communication. That you were feeling that type of way, you reached out, or you're going to reach out to the family, and you're again bridging the gap between adoptive families and birth families, right? So if you are feeling really scared or really anxious or really worried, it's okay for you to say that. It's okay for you to say, I'm worried for my Black child, and I want to make sure that there's a dialogue happening between myself and the adoptive family, so that everyone can feel a little less anxious. Making sure that you have communication with your adopting family is really important as birth parents. And adopting families in turn, making sure you have that open communication, or at least having the door open to have that communication, is important and can help alleviate some of the fears. Go ahead, Rich.
I just wanted to thank Asia for saying that, because it's been the exact opposite for me, in terms of, I am fearful that our birth mother doesn't trust us, that we're going to do the right thing, or try to do right by all of this. Like, that's my fear, is going the other way. And to hear that she probably had, I just think it's fantastic that you're so selfless. It's awesome. But it is, the communication's important. I think it goes both ways. I think there's probably fear on both sides, because we do want to address this the right way and do what we can, but we need help with it. And that's why these conversations are so important. So thank you for saying that, Asia.
Lynn, were you going to say something?
No, I like what Asia said about, the fear. I'm afraid of how white people are going to react, and how Black people are going to react. And, when Amanda reached out the other day about this, I was like, oh, wow, I need this. And by having communications like this, it's going to definitely help, little bits at a time, are going to help with things. But I definitely feel more calm knowing that we're having this group discussion, because it's helpful. Parenting is hard to begin with, let alone when you're parenting a child that's not of the same culture.
Well, and thank you for being honest about that and admitting that, Lynn, because oftentimes people think that that's like a letdown if you're honest and admit that it's challenging. And that's okay to say that. So thank you. Thank you so much to all of our clients for being courageous enough to have these conversations. Please tune in next week as we continue to talk about race within the adoption community.